If you think that the problem with Israel, and this is specifically for the very comfortable liberal class in particular that loves Israel and just believes that this is a Netanyahu, Milikowski, and his cohorts problem, and not the state of Israel as a whole, in terms of how they conduct business and how they treat the world and the such. Well, let me assure you, it is about that. These animals, and by animals I mean the rapist animals of the IDF, 5 soldiers in particular, that were just released, even though they were caught on camera gang raping a Palestinian with a sharp object. To me, it is a reflection of the culture at large, because they were celebrating his release. And here we have the Israeli military drops charges against soldiers accused of sexually assaulting a Palestinian detainee. This is who they are. This isn't a one-off anomaly. We've seen the polls. We've seen them constantly. You know what the polls say, right? The polls say that the Israelis support the war. They support the genocide. They support Netanyahu and his cohorts. So this should come as no surprise. Israel's military on Thursday said it was dropping the charges against 5 soldiers accused of beating and sexually abusing a Palestinian detainee in an alleged assault partially caught on camera. The decision, which came as much of the country's attention was focused on the war in Iran, closed a flashpoint case that has bitterly divided Israel since the soldiers were arrested in 2024 at the notorious Sde Taiman military prison, prompting anger from members of the far-right government and hardline ultranationalists who violently overran the prison in protest. Netanyahu Milikowski hailed the announcement. Of course, we don't know if he's alive or not. While human rights groups accuse the military of ignoring one of the gravest instances of abuse in the country's network of wartime prisons. Israel's military advocate general just gave his soldiers license to rape so long as the victim is Palestinian, said Sari Bashi, executive director of the Public Committee Against Torture in Israel. After the case was dismissed, she said the decision was the latest in a long line of actions that whitewash abuses against detainees whose frequency and severity have worsened since October 7, 2023. Remember, that was just an excuse. Netanyahu welcomed the decision, saying the state of Israel must pursue its enemies, not its heroic fighters, even if they're gang rapists. The now dismissed indictment against the soldiers accused them of an assault that included dragging a Palestinian prisoner along the floor, stepping on him, tasering him, and sexually assaulting him by stabbing him in the rectum. Palestinian was taken to an Israeli hospital with fractured ribs and a perforated rectum that required surgery before he was returned to the prison. Of course, the allegations of abuse at the facility gained steam when, in August of 24, Israeli news broadcasted a leaked video of the alleged assault. Well, now you know why they have everything kept under such tight wraps. They can't even show you the bad stuff that's happening to Israel right now. They keep everything on the down low. The video showed a group of masked soldiers because, you know, why would anybody want to show their face when they're committing war crimes and crimes against humanity, wrestling a detainee to the ground, where he and other Palestinians were lying face down and handcuffed in a fenced-in pen, and taking detainee to an area of the pen they quartered off using shields. Yep, all stood with those shields around to do their business, right? In its Thursday decision dismissing the case, the military's top legal officer said the charges against the soldiers were being dropped because the video did not show abuse violent enough to merit a criminal conviction and had been improperly leaked to the media. Yeah, they should all burn in hell. There is no defending this. There is no accepting this. And there is no getting around the fact that when this place is leveled and the reverse Nazi hunters are out there searching for these people, that anyone is going to sympathize, and they shouldn't. They're going to get exactly what they have coming to them. So even though their courts of law are not going to do anything, we the people will do plenty in due time. The decision added that the Palestinian victim had since been released back to Gaza, creating an absence of certainty he would be able to testify in a trial. In November of 25, after such speculation about how the leaked video got out, Military Advocate General Yifat Tomer Yerushalame, the top legal official in the military, admitted that she had approved its release, saying she had wanted to show how serious the abuse was and convince people the military had a duty to investigate. Facing an uproar from Netanyahu's government, she abruptly resigned and then disappeared, only to be found phoneless on a Tel Aviv beach after a frantic search by authorities. The phone, believed to hold possible evidence against her, was later recovered in the sea. Who's to say she's still alive now? Associated Press investigated allegations of inhumane treatment and abuse at Sde Tiemann before the surveillance video. Prison was set up after October 7, 2023, to hold Palestinians rounded up in Gaza during Israel's war against the Hamas militant group. The secretive facility quickly gained notoriety as employees and Palestinians freed from detention described scenes of abuse and torture, and Israeli rights groups petitioned the country's top court for it to be shuttered. Israel has long been accused of failing to hold its soldiers accountable for crimes against the Palestinians. The allegations have intensified during the war on Gaza. Israel says its forces act within military and international law and say it thoroughly investigates any alleged abuses. Again, rules for thee, not for me. That's how Israel rolls. They are the chosen people. They are above a reproach. They can do as they please. And if that means they have to get a little rapey, boogie downish with other men, to each their own. But they're animals. There are no redeeming qualities. And if you think that was bad, if you think letting them go was bad, how about this game show in Israel that decided to have one of the soldiers on the other night?
בתוכניתנו לוחם כוח 100 מאיר בן שטרית שהתמודד עם הנוח'בות בשדה תימן ועכשיו מתמודד עם האשמות קשות וכולנו רוצים לשמוע מה יש לו להגיד וגם יהיה... תגיד לי, למה אתה עומד ככה?
כי גם אני יכול להיות כוח 100, תראה את הגודל שלך.
אתה?
לא בדיוק 100.
לא.
אז 30.
30 בקושי, ערב 10:30, תבואו.
Okay, so I don't remember this animal's name in the middle, but I'm pretty sure I've seen him before. This is not the first time, but this is how they roll. This is what they do. They don't care. They really don't. There is no remorse. They're animals, which is why we have to do away with their ideology. Again, whatever they do in their own country, look, they're sitting ducks anyway after what they did with Iran. It's all about what we can control here at home. What we control here at home is that we do not want them here anymore. We do not want them in our government. We do not want them in our communities. We don't want them in our country, period. We want them out. Goodbye. Wherever you go, that's your problem. Could care less what happens to you, what your fate is. May it be a swift and brutal one, as I said earlier regarding justice. But that's what deserves to happen to them. That's what they deserve to have happen to them. And may it be so. I will not shed a single tear for any one of them when they get what they have coming. And they're going to try to run away. But as I said, the second that the so-called general, if you want to call him that, is gone, they'll have nothing. And they really don't. They really don't have anything, which is why if Netanyahu and Gvir are gone, they're going to do everything they can in their power to try to maintain the illusion that they're just fine. But it is inevitable. It is simply inevitable that they're going to collapse, that they will be no more. And if you really think that there is anything worth redeeming with these people, I want to remind you of what they've been doing for the past 2.5 years, not just in Gaza, but the people who wanted to witness what was in Gaza or what was happening for their own personal enjoyment. Watching genocide is what the Israelis enjoyed doing as much as anything. Daniela Weiss, of course, leading the charge.
With the first families, ready to occupy the land of those who are being killed and starved to death.
מטרה של גרעיני ההתיישבות להתקרב ככל האפשר לעזה, לראות את עזה כולה ולהבין שמעתה והלאה.
So this is what she and all of their people want. From now on, Gaza will be completely Jewish. You know, the funny thing is, ladies and gentlemen, because of the way things were going here in this country, in so many respects, because we see the similarities between Israel and Nazi Germany, Nazi Germany may have figured out a way to pull this off if they didn't invade Russia. They didn't start that leg of the war in the winter of 1942. But they got too big for their britches. They couldn't get to Moscow, and that ultimately proved to be the changing of the guard moment in the war. Well, you know what? The same is true in many respects now when it comes to Iran. They were flying a little too close to the sun, feeling their oats a little too hard, and then when they decided to attack a nation that was not going to take it and was going to give it back just as hard, if not harder, well, now Israel's in a lot of trouble. And when the tribunals start and they're captured and they have nowhere to go, videos like this will play on loop forever, reminding people of just how much genocide they actually supported. And this should not go without saying. Daniela Weiss must be brought to justice, and it must be swift, and it must be brutal, for she deserves it as much as anyone.
עזה תהיה כולה יהודית. בעזרת השם, עם ישראל ינצח ונזכה לבנות ולראות בשוב השם לציון ובשוב עם ישראל.
I want to remind people one more time that while I believe in God, I believe in the possibility of God. Leave it at that. But I believe in the separation of church and state. Whatever you believe in your private life is your business. You bring that shit into my life and it affects my ability to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you better get the fuck out of my way or I'm coming for you. And these people, with their insanity of religious indoctrination, believe that it is not necessary to separate church from state or synagogue from state. And the same is true for the psychopaths in the Trump administration, which we'll get to in a minute. Without question, this is insane indoctrination, but also a belief system that they fully embrace. No question.
לחבל עזה.
Now, I know some people want to have sympathy for the children. They didn't ask for this, that they were brought up in that world. And They don't know any better. On the one hand, I would say that that is fair, but only to a degree. At some point, you have to be held responsible for your own actions. And if the people in question are preaching genocide, death, and destruction, at some point, you are not allowed to be given this reprieve, this idea of, well, they didn't know any better. It's amazing how the fifth commandment is preached so hard, and yet it is desecrated even harder when it comes to their genocidal ideology.